This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Illuna Apex of Wishes versus Ramos Dragon Engine, Elsha of the Infinite, and Captain Sisay. Well, we've got a turn 3 Wood Elves at the very least. We don't have a whole lot else going on, but between now and Wood Elves we'll draw a few more cards, so yeah, I think we can keep that. We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed that we can do something else this game. But we'll be at 4 lands at least by the time Wood Elves comes down. Rhythm of the Wild, okay. We'll hold up Worldly Tutor. I highly doubt we're going to go for it. But yeah, certainly not going to play Prismatic Vista because I've no idea which colours to go for with it yet. A Wayfarer's Bauble coming down for Captain Sisay, who is a patron of the channel, by the way, the 7 Deadly Sins. Then we've got Brave Black Knight, who is also a patron, running Elsha and casting A Careful Study, which suggests, along with Spell Pierce and Thought Scour, that this is a very low curve Spellslinger variant. And then Zenmind I assume that is an internet random playing Ramos Dragon Engine. And then at the end of the turn there, Brave Knight went for Gitaxian Probe, looking at the Dragon Engine's hand. They've gotten themselves up to 2 lands now and is passing the turn. Alright, we're getting to another land. So we'll just get a fetch out of the way with this. Almost grabbed the Is-It Shock land there to bring in tapped. Still forgetting about these tri-lands. So luckily I looked at all the lands before I decided on what I was going for with Polluted Delta. Obviously going in for a Tricycle land because it always comes in tapped. Arbor Elf for Sisay now. So we're still a couple of turns off Sisay, I think. It may be that they crack their Cross and Verge next turn. Or maybe they're going for Wayfarer's Bauble. Either way, I don't think we're going to see Captain Sisay next turn. Curious Homunculus for the Jeskai player. And then at the end of the turn, it is a Growth Spiral from the Dragon player, so they did have something to do with that 2 mana after all. And now it's around to their turn. And then straight in for a Kodama's Reach, so definitely not going to have trouble developing their 5 colours. Although curiously, they didn't go for a white source. So they must already have a Plains in hand because they went for a Mountain into hand, as well as a blue source into play. We get ourselves into another land. Reflecting Pool goes very nicely with a Tricycle land. So let's get that down. And we'll get ourselves into a tap land with the Wood Elves. Arbor Elf generates 2 mana from the forest, and they do go in for cracking that Cross and Verge. So they get 2 lands out of the library here. And then they get down their Shock lands, so they've got all the dual lands from Celestia in play at the moment, apart from the Savannah. And it's an Eyes Everywhere from the Jeskai player. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. You can exchange control of it with a non-land permanent, but only do that as a sorcery. And then this has turned into the Voracious Reader. So instants and sorceries now cost 1 less to cast, and it is a 4/5. Looks like it went in over here at the Sisay player. Now there's 6 mana up over here for the Dragon Engine, so we'll see if they decide to cast their commander. That's exactly what they go for, so no protection held up over there. I wonder if it's worth trying to get rid of that. Well, we can't draw into anything but lands, unfortunately, so it doesn't look like we're going to be able to. Maybe we just go in for another tap land with the Wooded Foothills. I will get down Rhythm of the Wild, and we'll perhaps hold up mana for Worldly Tutor. Have to make sure to grab the land before we do that. This time Wayfarer's Bauble being cracked, and they get themselves into a Plains with 3 mana held up. And then following things up with a Swiftfoot Boot, setting themselves up for Sisay next turn. So Sisay comes down for 4 mana. They equip the Swiftfoot Boots and get haste as well as protection onto her straight away. And they'll have 1 mana held up if they want to use the Arbor Elf. 2 mana held up if they play a land. Anyway, Eyes Everywhere at the beginning of your upkeep allows you a Scry 1. And they get into even more cheap instants and sorceries in Opt. And their Homunculus goes up to a 4/5 thanks to Prowess. Then it's a Ghoul Caller's Bell. Each player mills 1 for a tap. It's now jumped up to a 5/6 and is going in towards Ramos, who will no doubt not block with the 4/4. Now, how many plus counters are going to go onto this Ramos is the question, because it doesn't seem as though anyone's been able to get rid of it yet. Well, it's 5 +1/+1 counters apparently. That is Chromanticore. And it looks like they're bestowing that, which means the enchanted creature gets +4/+4, has Flying, First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink. And it's going to get 5+ counters on it. That'll make it an 18/18, I think. So in response, that's really good from Captain Sisay. A nice 2-for-1 there. Nature's Law, getting rid of the Dragon Engine, as well as the Chromanticore. Oh, it doesn't get rid of the Chromanticore. That still comes down, even though the target's been removed. Alright, I know that happens with Mutate, but I didn't know that it happens with Bestow. So that comes into play regardless of whether or not the Dragon Engine is in play. Let's go in for this land at the end of the turn, and I don't think we're going to bother with Worldly Tutor. I would have gone for Reclamation Sage with that, but we don't actually have it in the deck. We don't need to grab it now that the Dragon Engine is gone. Okay, there's a nice mutate cost, and that is whenever it mutates we draw a card. I think I'll leave that until I'm quite comfortable with the fact that our commander is in play. I'm dubious of the white mana over here. They might remove our Wood Elves in response to our commander coming down. At least it'll hit play and we can mutate it next turn though, hopefully. So it's 6 mana, isn't it, to get down our commander. So if we play the Strip Mine, it might deter them from using their swords if they've got one in hand. Yeah, we'll see. Oh good, I misclicked and didn't cast it for its mutate cost. Yeah, I thought I was misremembering the mutate cost there and that it only cost 5, but somehow managed to cast it without mutate. Excellent. So let's just... yeah, we'll cast it with haste and we'll start getting some commander damage off. That's quite annoying. I would have liked to have mutated that, obviously. And then we actually could have gotten a non-land permanent into play. It's annoying. We'll go after Sisay because she's the scariest player at the table, I think. Especially with the tutors going off next turn. Yeah, apologies for that. I goofed up with Illuna last game as well. I didn't misclick with her in that I didn't get to mutate with her, but I did have some deck errors in which there were some humans in the deck and completely forgot that you can't mutate onto humans. There was some double striking humans in the deck which I have since removed. But yeah, there were some errors made last game, and apparently there's going to be errors made this game as well, so apologies for that. Anyway, Sisay comes down and she gets haste and hexproof. Looks like they're going to leave it until the end of our turn. Playing a 5th land and going straight in for Elsha of the Infinite. Now we have to be wary of this thing because we can't go for Worldly Tutor while this is untapped. Yeah, that actually switches off the fast tutors. Might be the reason it's in the deck. This time the Chromanticore goes in at Elsha, then following things up with Bring to Light. And it was Niv Mizzet Reborn that they went for. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Probably one of the best 5-colour creatures that you could go for, actually. They've only got 4 cards in hand, but I'm sure they're about to get a lot more cards than that straight into hand. They get 4 cards, go up to 8. And yeah, don't know what they kept out of there. It's 2 colours that they care about, isn't it? So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the most worrying one of which being the 1000-Year Storm. Anyway, certainly not going to go for the Worldly Tutor whilst this thing is untapped. So we'll just concentrate on a Dreamtail Heron. How much do they have to pay into this? That is 6 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with one more land, they could steal away our Zendikar Resurgent, couldn't they? Which is quite worrying. Yeah, and that's quite annoying actually, because we could go for Dreamtail Heron on the back of Zendikar Resurgent and draw a card, as well as do some shenanigans with Illuna. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for Zendikar Resurgent anyway. We can try a Worldly Tutor into Woodfall Primus and blow it up from our opponent's side if needs be. At least we get a scry every turn if they do decide to trade us. And then make sure that I actually mutate this time. So see, you can cast, or you can cast with mutate. The way I would program it is have the client actually ask you, because it's easy to cast things with multi-kicker for 0 and things like that. That mana rock, I've done that plenty of times. Anyway, we will mutate onto Illuna and hope there's no removal. There's open white mana over here, so there may well be. At least we draw off of the Resurgent. So we draw a card. Okay, getting to Markov Blade Master, which is a good thing to mutate our commander onto. So we can go Markov Blade Master and then put Illuna on top of it afterwards. Anyway, battlefield for Scroll Rack. We can stack the top of our library when we decide to mutate again if we want to. I don't want to show my opponent that I'm absolutely focused on Captain Sisay, and she hasn't shown herself to be too much of a threat yet, although we all know she will be. And yeah, I don't want to really suffer the wrath of Captain Sisay, so I'm not going to keep swinging in over there, although maybe we should. They may well not tutor for an answer to us, thanks to us not swinging into them. Got themselves into Gisela the Broken Blade, so maybe we'll see Brisella, Voice of Nightmares, this game. I added those two to a deck recently, and I can't remember. That might have been in my Sisay deck, actually. I think I might have gone for the same thing myself, but never managed to assemble Brisella. Might have to give Captain Sisay another run round the table. They go in for Gisela, and now deciding to tutor immediately. No, it's a Gaia's Cradle. So obviously not wanting to miss a land this turn, they jump up to 4 mana out of nowhere. 5 if they decide to use the Arbor Elf, which they do. Anyway, a bunch of their stuff has hexproof now, apart from the Shalai itself. So it's back over to Elsha. Yet another cantrip from Brave Knight, and this time it's the Serum Visions. Then a Burning Prophet. Whenever you cast a non-creature, you get +1/+0 and then scry 1. So it looks as though this is a prowess build of some kind. Then exiling pretty much the entire graveyard for a treasure cruise, taking them up to 5 cards in hand. And then rounding off the turn with then Azorius Signet, so this jumps up to a 6/7. The commander's a 6/6, and the Burning Prophet is a 3/3. Now through to combat, and it looks as though Brave Knight is targeting the 5-colour player. They can trade Niv Mizzet with the commander if they want to, but deciding to gang up on the Voracious Reader. So I would get rid of Niv Mizzet here if I was my opponent. But they decide to get rid of the Chromanticore instead. I'm just worried about the fact that Niv Mizzet might be flickered, that's all, because it is an ETB effect as opposed to a cast effect. So yeah, here's hoping that there's no flicker on that side of the table. Don't know how much they would benefit from that in a Dragon Engine deck. Getting themselves straight into the Urban Evolution that they grabbed off of the Niv Mizzet previously. And then a Search for Azcanta. Well, we get our turn back with a Zendikar Resurgent in play. I thought that the Jeskai player would definitely steal that away, but apparently not. We've still got that Niv Mizzet to worry about though, and there's 3 mana held up over here. They do not... Oh, they do have white mana held up thanks to Reflecting Pool, and I know they've got Anguished Unmaking in hand. Yes, there it is. Okay, Return of the Wild Speaker is good. We've got 16 mana with the Mana Crypt, so we can always go for Surak Dragonclaw in response to our commander being removed, in response to the Return of the Wild Speaker, although that's equal to non-human creatures, isn't it? Yeah, so falling into the trap of humans again. Not running into as many blue counter decks as I normally do, so Surak hasn't been as good as I thought it was going to be. And the dragon player deciding to scoop. That's yeah, that's annoying, but it actually changes things. So in that case, I'm not going to bother. I was going to go for the scroll rack there and try and get into something that we could draw cards with off of the Return of the Wild Speaker. But now that the Anguished Unmaking has gone down, I'm going to hope that there's no swords over here. But of course there is, isn't there? Yeah, Path to Exile. Ugh, yeah, still too hasty apparently. So we're only going to draw one card here. Why don't we just waste this Beast Within? And we'll at least try and draw 3 cards off of that Return of the Wild Speaker. Still should have gone for Scroll Rack apparently. So there we go, get into a Vorapede. Let's play a Forest. And then Vorapede is a half decent target for our commander actually. Vigilance, Trample, Undying and Flying our commander will have. And that obviously draws us a card with the Resurgent. And Nature's Law is free with a mana doubler in play, so we'll definitely cast that. Let's put... do we want that to come in with haste? I think I'd rather have a plus counter actually. Yeah, let's just get a plus counter on that. And then we'll go for the Nature's Law. I may well cast the Markov Blade Master as well, and then we can decide if we'd rather have Double Strike or a load of keywords on our commander. Play the Blade Master and draw another card. Alright, and we get into another Mutate creature, and it's a good one as well. This gets us into non-land permanents, I think. So what we could really do with is some kind of hexproof at the moment. Let's see, a 1-1 with Double Strike and Haste isn't all that useful in this board state, so we'll go for another plus counter off of Rhythm of the Wild. Yeah, so I have been disappointed with Surat Dragonclaw so far, but it's only because my opponents haven't been playing very control-y builds. I imagine I'll be glad of it as soon as there's a lot of counter magic flying around. We'll just hold up mana for the Scroll Rack and see if we can get rid of these 3 cards, the Surak, the Worldly Tutor and the land. I definitely want to keep the Auspicious Starix. Captain Sisay goes for a main phase tutor. And what did they grab? It was Urza's Ruinous Blast. They've got plenty of legendary creatures in play, obviously, because it's a Sisay deck, so should be able to wipe out pretty much everything here if they want to. And there it is. Yeah, so that takes out pretty much all of our non-land permanents, apart from Elsha. So yeah, it gets rid of this thing at least and switches on our Worldly Tutor again if we want it to. But yeah, we're losing a lot here. So in response, Ghoul Caller's Bell mills us all. Let's go for a Scroll Rack in response to this, because we're about to lose it anyway. The Worldly Tutor might actually be of some use to us now, so we'll draw into that next turn. We get into Sunbird's Invocation, that's really good. Yeah, we're going to lose our mana doubler, as well as 2 mana from here, unfortunately, so I don't know if we're going to be able to do as much as I would have liked next turn. And then Shalai comes in at us for 3, and Gisela comes in at us for 4 as well, totaling 7 damage. Brass's Bounty, that's a good one, make good use of that in one of my decks, can't remember which one it is now. Oh, I think it's Corvold I use it in. A Temporal Fissure, return a target permanent to its owner's hand, and that is Storm. They can't target these 2 because they have hexproof, but they are targeting Shalai, as well as the Great Henge, the Gaia's Cradle, and the Shockland. A few lands went there by the looks of it. It was Shalai, the Great Henge, and a few lands, including Gaia's Cradle. So just like that, Captain Sisay goes down to 4 lands, and then 7 commander damage going on to them as well. I think our main aim here is to go Sunbird's Invocation, and we'll try and get into something with Sky Shroud Claim. And hopefully we'll get something off of there. We don't. We had the Surat Dragonclaw and the land that we put on top, and then another couple of lands on top of that, so at the very least we get to shuffle those around and hopefully get something good on top of our library. So the Worldly Tutor is back online now, and we'll just have to see if we can try and sort something out with that. Maybe I'm not really sure what we'd go for with Worldly Tutor in this scenario, to be honest. Maybe Maelstrom Wanderer would be a good idea. So Sisay doing a little bit of rebuilding here, going in for Gaia's Cradle and Mox Amber, then straight in for Shalai again. So buying themselves a turn. Looks as though the Mox Amber is what, yeah, Mox Amber is what they grabbed with the Sisay. Then going for Prismatic Lens. And then tapping out and passing the turn. I will yield until the end step, and we'll see about going for a Worldly Tutor onto Maelstrom Wanderer. Ooh, Jeskai Ascendancy from the Jeskai player. Yeah, that's a worrying one. You can definitely get combos off with that for infinite power and toughness on your prowess creatures. Slip through space is target creature can't be blocked this turn, yeah, so it's probably a cantrip fueled prowess deck. And then there's plenty of instants and sorceries that can make creatures unblockable, so going for commander damage in this game. Then Firemind's Research now. And Elsha, unblockable. I'm guessing it's going in at Sisay. Yep, so one more attacking from Elsha, and Sisay might be done for next turn, so they have to grab themselves an answer. Anyway, we'll go for Worldly Tutor. Sunbird's triggers. I doubt we get anything off of Sunbird's. Oh no, we do get a Sensei's top. Well, I'll take a free top. And then maybe we could even go for... Oh no, we won't have haste anymore, will we? I was thinking of going for Cold-Eyed Selkie, but I think we just need to try. Yeah, I think we need to try and get some haste on the go as well as some card advantage. And there's no better way of doing that than Maelstrom Wanderer. The Maelstrom Wanderer actually goes nicely with Sensei's top as well. Oh, alright. Yeah, we're gonna reveal 3 things off the top anyway, so let's allow Sunbird's Invocation to trigger first. And then we'll see about spinning the top for the Maelstrom Wanderer. Now then, we've got some choices there, haven't we? There's an Evacuation, which I don't mind. Yeah, Evacuation might slow things down nicely. I like that Thrun as well, but yeah, let's go Evacuation with this board state. And then this is Mutate of 6, so we're not going to do anything with that, so we might as well just spin the top here and see if we can manipulate what we get into. We've got Warrant Instigator and Animar. Yeah, I don't mind getting into both of those off of Maelstrom Wanderer, to be honest, so we'll just go for the Sulphur Falls on top, and then the Warrant Instigator and the Animar. Yeah, Animar's got protection from white, which I very much like because some of the best removal in EDH is in white, so that's a good target for our Mutate next turn, assuming that we don't see a Wrath, which we may well do. Warren Instigator is one of the replacements of the one of the double striking cheap humans that I had in the deck. We can't cheat in any goblins, but it is a 2-mana double strike enabler for our commander. Hence the reason it's in here. It's going to help us deal a little bit of damage this turn. Now then, I'm hoping that the Jeskai player is going to deal with Sisay, but if we become a threat now, then it might be 2 against 1. Let's go 7 there. Yeah, we'll split the damage. So it's those 2 creatures in at 7 sins, and Brave Knight is getting a Maelstrom Wanderer, and then we'll hold up mana for spinning the top again at the end of Brave Knight's turn. And there's the Wrath, yeah, kind of expecting that. Wrath of God comes down and deals with our creatures. Yeah, a lot of answers in this game, so it's going to be difficult to keep anything in play. So that Evacuation kind of helped our opponent to stay in cards there, but at least we forced them to use the Wrath. I think the main benefit for us this game is going to be this Sunbird's Invocation if we can manage to keep it in play. We're forcing the Jeskai player to recast their Elsha as well. Yeah, I was wondering when this thing was going to come down. 1,000 Year Storm right next to Jeskai Ascendancy, and this triggers on cast, doesn't it? And I think the copies do count as being cast, don't they? We'll soon find out, because straight away in comes an Impulse. So there's one trigger from the Firemind's Research, and then a bunch of looting going on for Jeskai Ascendancy. I haven't been keeping an eye on the graveyard over here. A land's gone down, Think Twice has gone down. Tidings into the bin as well. And it doesn't look like there's another cantrip in our opponent's hand, so have to wait till the next turn to test the theory on this getting multiple counters. Anyway, look at the top 3 cards with the top again. See what we want to draw into. Mana Reflection. How much mana will we have left over with a Mana Reflection? And that can take us into a Mutate card as well, can't it? Which will allow us to get down our commander next turn. Unfortunately, it won't have haste. That is 4, 5 and 6. We'll have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12 mana left over. So yeah, we'll go Sulphur Falls, the Gnar, and we'll draw into the Mana Reflection. Get down the Mana Reflection immediately. And then Sunbird's Invocation obviously triggers and gets us into that Mutate creature. Assuming that we want to choose the Mutate creature, that is. We've got a Thunderblast. Oh, that has haste, doesn't it? So we could do a little bit more commander damage here, actually. Gemrazor. I think Gemrazor is actually the wiser play, isn't it? Yeah, we'll cast Gemrazor. And this time, there you see, all this text comes up, and I obviously just went on cast the last time I went for this. So this time we'll go for the Mutate and mutate onto the Gemrazor. That costs 8 mana. And unfortunately don't have the mana to go for the Auspicious Starix. But anyway, not to worry, we put it over the top of it. No haste for us, because all the permanents are getting wiped out all the time. But we might get into a haste enabler off of Illuna. Let's blow up the 1,000 Year Storm, most definitely. I'd like to get rid of the Jeskai Ascendancy next turn as well, but it relies on us keeping our commander in play, which we may well not be able to do. Rhystic Study we definitely put onto the battlefield. There's a lot of mana in play now, so I don't know how much card draw we'll get out of that, but it swallows up some of our opponent's mana at least. And now, starting to rebuild after the evacuation, Captain Sisay coming into play. We will absolutely draw a card from the Rhystic Study, our opponent choosing to give us card draw there. In fact, whilst we've got the spare mana, I'm actually going to spin the top and decide what we draw into, assuming that we draw another card. So there we go, Shall I, allowing us to draw another card. We'll spin the top. And what have we got there? We've got another Mutate card in Parcel Beast. Hexproof is quite good, but we've already got our commander in place, so let's go Contested Cliffs, the Ledge Walker, and we'll draw into the Parcel Beast. Then we've got the floating mana, so we might as well spin it again because we're going to get to look at a new card. We might want to reorder things entirely. It is just another land. I think I'm actually going to put that fetch land on top because we can shuffle things around with that. Although maybe we want the Contested Cliffs on top to get rid of Shall I, because it is a problem. It'll encourage my opponent's removal to go over here onto Sisay as well. Yeah, we'll see. Ooh, that doesn't look good. Underworld Breach, we may well be seeing our opponent combo off here. They've only got until the end of the turn with this. Yeah, they have to sacrifice it at the end of the turn. I don't know what combo they'd be going for, but yeah, that is usually a sign that our opponent is going to combo off when they go for Underworld Breach. They go for Brass's Bounty now. I'm glad we got rid of the 1,000 Year Storm, although it would only have triggered once anyway. Wouldn't have made any copies. Another counter going on Firemind's Research. They go for another loot. Do they have anything new to worry about? Epic Experiment is in the bin, as is Fists of Flame. And they've got 9 treasures held up now. 2 cards in hand. And then it's a Brass's Bounty again. Don't know if they can go infinite with Brass's Bounty, can they? Maybe they can make infinite mana with Brass's Bounty, actually. There's so many things you can do with Underworld Breach. Yeah, it doesn't exile, does it? You just have to be able to exile enough cards. And if they're looting every time they go for something, that means they can go for Brass's Bounty for even longer. I don't think they've quite got infinite, but they're damn near to it. They've only got 2 cards in hand. And with the infinite mana they can draw, so yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously going for it again and not paying into the Ristic Study. We've already gotten into the 3 cards that we knew were on top. I'll leave it until the end of the turn before we decide to have a look at the top 3 cards. With Sensei's top, we get into another hexproof creature in the Slippery Bogle. Then grabbing themselves the 1000-Year Storm again, that will put them a step closer to going infinite. There's 3 instants and sorceries that have been cast so far. So they go for Brass's Bounty again. They've got 6 cards in the library, or 6 cards in the graveyard, apart from the Brass's Bounty, so they can cast this another 2 times. And then they've got the card draw from this as well, so they may well be able to cast things and put them in the bin, ready to take advantage of Underworld Breach again. So, yeah, I think our opponent might have us here. And now getting a bunch of copies off of Brass's Bounty. And I don't think the copies count as being cast because, like we were saying before, the Fireman's Research needs to see a cast. So apparently you don't get multiple counters with this off of copies. But they do get a bunch of Brass's Bounties, so that's a hell of a lot of treasure tokens. 36 at the moment. So making a whole heap of mana there and then going for Epic Experiment into the graveyard. This is exactly what I was talking about with Jeskai Ascendancy. It doesn't look like all that dangerous a card, but it is a very, very good combo enabler, and we've witnessed that here. Because Epic Experiment being cast from the graveyard is exactly what's going to take us down. Exile the top X cards of your library, that's 28. You may cast instants and sorcery spells with CMC X or less from among them, without paying the cost, and all the cards exiled this way that weren't cast go into the graveyard, ready for more shenanigans with the Underworld Breach. So what do they get to cast here? They have Gutshot. I don't know what the storm count is at the moment, but this is just Jeskai doing Jeskai things. Tolarian Winds if they want to refill their hand. Mind's Desire for more storm shenanigans. Windfall, Portent. Yeah, I mean, they've got the game here at this point. It's just a case of waiting for them to actually win it. Oh, there's an Approach of the Second Sun as well, which I didn't see. As well as a Faithless Looting. What else is there? Contingency Plan. So yeah, a whole bunch of stuff coming off of the Epic Experiment. So with the stacking play there, we draw a bunch of cards with Ristic Study. This is meant to be around a power level 6 deck, so we don't have anything like Force of Wills or what else is there, like Veil of Summer and things like that. We don't have any means of giving ourselves hexproof or countering at instant speed or anything like that, so or countering for free with things like Force of Will, so there's nothing we're going to get into here. The Jeskai player has got us. Mind's Desire, there were 11 copies of. And with the Mind's Desire, they've gotten into Grape Shot, which is even more Storm. Terminus. Pyroblast can get rid of our commander. There's a Deflecting Palm, which won't be of much use to them. Is it Chemister? Goblin Electromancer, a bunch of lands as well. Looks like they are just continuing to loot with Jeskai Ascendancy, so they emptied the graveyard, but it is well and truly filled up again. Now Contingency with 7 copies of that, I think. So Contingency Plan. Look at the top 5 cards, put any number of them into the graveyard and the rest back on top. So a means of filling up their graveyard, ready for comboing off with Underworld Breach. I imagine that this is the whole point of this deck, is to go in for Underworld Breach stuff. Now they've only got 5 cards left in the library off of Contingency Plan. I don't know if they're going to be forced to draw with anything. This is a May ability. Yeah, you may draw with Jeskai Ascendancy. Mind's Desire doesn't force you to draw. Portent. Draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. That's lucky. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to force themselves to draw at any point. Yeah, I don't think they are. I think they've managed to dodge that. But like I said, they've only got now even more cards in the library. Maybe they're putting stuff back on top with Contingency Plan. Back up to 10 cards in the library now. Faithless Looting. that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12 cards. They've got 10 in the library. They may well deck themselves here. Yeah, so yeah, and that's why you play it out, see? How many times have I said that it's not over till it's over? And even with all this stuff on the stack, looks as though our opponent may well die to their own deck here. You never know what's going to happen. So 2 cards, now 0 cards left in the library, and still a Faithless Looting on the stack. They might have gotten away with it if they had 1 less Faithless Looting. Anyway, they're going for something here. Don't know if they can get something in at instant speed. Yeah, I don't think they can play Lab Man at instant speed. Maybe they can. Maybe I'm missing something. There's no flashing EDH anymore, don't forget. They're countering their own Faithless Looting with Dissolve, so maybe they have managed to dodge it. I can't remember what's under the other 1000-Year Storms, so yeah, maybe they've dodged it, like I said. 0 cards in the library now, so all they have to do is draw 1 card in order to lose. Alright, now it's a bunch of counters going on the stack. Yeah, I'm just going to play it out and see if our opponent has any more forced draw. They've got a bunch of Dissolve counters to go through now. Obviously there's no Scry to actually bother with 0 cards in the library. But yeah, like I said, this is why you play it out, because you never know if your opponent's going to make a mistake or if they actually have the win. Just because the stack looks scary doesn't mean that they actually have the win on you. Just got my fingers crossed that they don't accidentally say yes to Jeskai Ascendancy now. They might have auto yes and auto yield on. Here's hoping they don't accidentally loot with that, because that will lose them the game. Alright, and then Black Knight says that he had to go all of a sudden. That's disappointing. I was looking forward to seeing what would happen with the stack there. So apologies to any of you that were also looking forward to that. At least we might get to see a little bit more mutate shenanigans here. Haven't had much chance to do that with Illuna. Let's see here. Rishkar's Expertise gets us into even more cards. Let's just... I don't know, I don't think it really matters. Let's just draw into the Rishkar's Expertise. And then obviously we draw into Rishkar's Expertise. Let's get down the Contested Cliffs, just in case we want to go for something with our commander. I've actually forgotten what the script is with our commander now, because we were sat watching all the stack play out for a while there. We'll get down the Contested Cliffs just in case we want to fight the Shalai. I have a feeling that we do want to do that. Let's see then. Strip Mine might go on to Gaia's Cradle. We'll definitely get down the Sol Ring because it's 1 mana to cast it, and then we get 4 mana back. And just put that Scourge Wolf on the bottom. Then we'll play ourselves a Chromatic Lantern. I'd like to get into haste actually, because if we can do something with Cold-Eyed Selkie, that'd be good. But just reveal 3 lands off the top, so nothing this time. Haven't had as good an amount of luck from Sunbird's Invocation as I have in previous games with this deck. Let's just drop a Cold-Eyed Selkie for the fun of it. This time get ourselves into Kodama's Reach. And we've only got 2 basics left because we've drawn so many cards, so let's just put an island into play tapped. I don't know if we've got a means of infinite hand size in this deck actually. We've only got 35 cards left ourselves. Let's go for some mutate, and we'll mutate onto our commander just so we get even more triggers. And we can grab nothing from that, unfortunately. So again, the bad luck continues with Sunbirds. It either does everything or it does nothing for you, I've noticed. We'll put that underneath, and then it's even more triggers. Illuna, and then the thing that blows up stuff. Let's get rid of the Mox Amber. We get into a Thran Dynamo, which can come onto the battlefield off of Illuna. Tap that down for 6 mana, and we'll go for the Auspicious Starix as well, and just make a big stack of a creature. So obviously the Invocation triggers again, and this time Getting into Thron, the last troll, that's an easy decision to make there. So we can still have a 4/4 creature in play, even if our opponent wraths. And we'll put the Starix underneath as well, and get even more mutate triggers. So this is exactly what you want to do in a mutate deck. I think I'll be more inclined to play mutate once we get more mutate cards available to us. There aren't that many at the moment, which is usually the case when a new mechanic gets released. Anger can go into hand so that we can discard it at the end of the turn, and then we reveal permanents with the Starix and get ourselves into another mutate creature, as well as Progenitor Mimic. Progenitor Mimic copies our mutate creature. So now we've got a Progenitor Mimic with a bunch of keywords on it and stuff. Still no haste, unfortunately, but we will be able to activate this ability when we discard the Anger. So maybe we go for that. Oh, I'm sorry, mistakes happening galore here. I meant to keep the original copy of Illuna. Obviously, we can only keep one. I only chose Illuna here to show you Progenitor Mimic becoming a huge stack of creatures here with a huge mutate stack. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. My brain is totally fried. Now we go for Rishkar's Expertise. Sunbirds yet again. And we're actually down to 28 cards, aren't we? Migratory Greathorn. Oh, Darksteel Mere is a good one. Yeah, we'll go for that just in case there's any kind of board wipe. And then we draw a bunch more cards. We can play something for free. Let's see. I mean, it's just the most expensive thing, isn't it, really? Let's go in for that. Is Guardian Project going to force us to draw? Yes, it means that you have to draw a card, so I'm certainly not going to cast that. Sunbird's triggers again, and we'll go for another indestructible creature, just in case they've got exile. Hopefully it's not mass exile. We've already seen the Urza, what's it called? The Urza's Ruinous Blast. We'll get down the Temur Ascendancy to give our stuff haste. And this time get ourselves into a brainstorm so we can put something on top and get something for free maybe. Yeah, let's put the Hexproofer and the Persister on top, and then we can get the Persister into play when we go for Great Henge, although that's forced card draw as well, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think we really need to do that actually. But we'll do it anyway, just for the sake of doing something fun. So now we'll get into the Persist creature off of the Sunbird's Invocation, unless there's something better. There isn't. So we'll go for Thunderblust, which is more Wrath Protection. Unfortunately, we didn't get into that in time this game. Although the Mass Exile wouldn't have protected us against Wraths anyway. Draw off of the Ascendancy. And then Great Henge manages to hit the field. I think we have to leave it there really. Actually, let's go for the boots just to help protect some of our stuff. So yeah, like I said, I accidentally kept the wrong morph creature there, or mutate creature. But yeah, we'll be able to see what you can do with Progenitor Mimic and mutate in this game maybe, unless our opponent wipes the board next turn. So 14 cards left in the library. We will go for Haste and Hexproof onto there. And I don't know if we can just win this turn actually. Yeah, we might be able to just win this turn. Do we want to go for Surak just to push enough damage through? So Surak comes in. We finally get into that asceticism. Could have done with that a bit earlier as well. We're getting into everything in the wrong order, but this game's been a bit weird anyway. This certainly doesn't count as a victory. Temur Ascendancy draws us a card. The Great Henge puts a plus counter on that and draws us a card as well. Onto the Surak, that is. And then there's even more mutate that could occur there, but I'm not going to force my opponent to watch us anymore. Let's just get rid of the Shalai just in case. So our copy of Illuna fights the Shalai with the Contested Cliffs. And then I think we're just swinging in for lethal. So Kind of accidentally won there, but it was all due to the fact that the Jeskai player didn't decide to play it out, unfortunately. So not a real victory there. A couple of players scooped on us, but the 7 Deadly Sins stuck it out luckily, so big thank you to him for that. Got to see some of what we want to do, in fact quite a bit of what we want to do with Illuna towards the end there. Yeah, Mutate's a bit of a funny one because once it's in play, I don't really know, other than bouncing it back to your hand, I don't really know what else you can do with it. Maybe we need to focus on playing a bunch of Mutate stuff and then bouncing the stacks back to our hand so that we get a load of creatures back into hand. I don't really know. That's the reason that Evacuate is in the deck, because one, Cyclonic Rift is banned in our play group, but also Evacuate can bring back a big stack of creatures back to your hand. So there we go, that's that. Certainly not a real victory, like I said. We actually came in 3rd place there, and if the other players stuck it around, it might have been that Captain Sisay and the 7 Deadly Sins would have managed to do better than that. Whilst everyone was dealing with each other, they might have pulled ahead. So, like I said, not a real victory, but got to show you some of what we want to do in this teamer list with Illuna, Apex of Wishes. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.